It's going to be an exciting Notre Dame offseason. Notre Dame got a taste of success in 2024, 14-2 national title appearance, but a lot more on the horizon. The offense is expected to be a strength of this team, but there are several key position battles this offseason that need to be watched. Let's talk about those spots and who the players are that you need to know. Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports, breaking down everything Notre Dame football. Folks, it might be February, but never too early to start previewing the 2025 college football season and hopeful national title run again for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and hopefully it ends a little bit better than how it ended this past season in that final game. In order for Notre Dame to take their next step as a program, a lot of the conversation is going to be around this offense this offseason. Going into Mike Denbrock's second year as the orchestrator of the offense for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, we're going to talk about some key position battles. And it all starts, of course, with the quarterback position. And there's three players that we obviously need to know in this quarterback battle. Notre Dame chose to not go to the portal, and they are now working with the guys that they've been fully now developing over the last couple years. So the three key names to know: Steve Angeli, Kenny Minchey, CJ Carr, and that is in an order of the age and the amount of time that they have been in this program. Going into this offseason, I think Steve Angeli is probably the front runner in the sense of when offseason work kicks up and eventually when we get into spring, I imagine that he is going to be quarterback one under center, the guy that gets the first snap. And that is obviously built upon he's been in the program the longest, he has the most experience, and he has done really well in the situations that he's been pressed into, including this past season against Penn State, where he had to lead a 2-minute drive the end of the first half when Riley Leonard was being evaluated for a head injury. So we have seen some really good things from Steve Angeli. End of the 2023 season, he had a big bowl game victory over the Oregon State Beavers. That was an impressive outing when they won 43-8. So we have seen spots of very good from Steve. And credit to Angeli, every time he's gotten an opportunity, he's done the most of it. He's played really well. Now, he's going to have to try to hold off two very talented young quarterbacks. I'm going to start with CJ Carr because the now redshirt freshman is a guy that most people are projecting to be the starting quarterback because of his obvious, some people had him as a borderline 5-star in the 2024 recruiting class, and he's been built as kind of a little bit of a savior. And while that might be very overplayed, CJ is a very, very talented quarterback, but so is Kenny Minchey, who's a grade above CJ, stronger arm, probably slightly, maybe not as quite as good a feel as a passer just overall coming out of high school as what CJ had, but the tools are very good. So I don't want to discount Kenny Minchey in this quarterback battle. I think that he needs to be a part of this conversation, and I think that he has a chance to potentially win it with the raw tools that he has if he takes a nice step from a processing perspective this offseason. Now, how this thing ends up, I personally think it's going to be one of the younger quarterbacks in the end, and that's no shot against Steve Angeli. I just think that both CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey are very talented and are going to be hard to beat if they start showing that comforts. But we have seen the Notre Dame coaching staff defer to experience in the past as well. So Steve Angeli is certainly someone not to discount from this quarterback battle. That is going to be the key position to watch this offseason. Another spot that has my attention fully this offseason is left tackle. Three guys to know: Charles Jagasaw, who was obviously the guy that was going to start at left tackle before the year. He had a preseason pec injury that cost him the majority of the 2024 season. Came back against Penn State at offensive guard, then started the final game, the national championship against Ohio State at left tackle, and played well, in my opinion. Anthony Knapp, who was a true freshman this past fall, started 15 games at left tackle. So he is your most experienced left tackle coming back. And then you also need to talk about Gerby Lambert, who was a backup right tackle this past year, but he was a part of the 2024 class and arguably one of the most talented offensive tackles in that group, just nationally, not even just for Notre Dame signees. He is all of 6'7", all of 328, 330 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. So he's a very physically gifted player. And the key to this is whoever ends up winning this left tackle spot is going to show how the rest of the line is going to shake out. Because I could ultimately see if Charles Jagasaw is your left tackle, Anthony Knapp moves over to right guard. I could also see if Anthony Knapp wins the left tackle spot, Charles Jagasaw moves over to right guard. And then if Gerby Lambert wins, then I think you don't move them both permanently, but you let both Jagasaw and Anthony Knapp fight for that right guard spot along with guys like Sullivan Absher to try to get your 5 best offensive linemen on the field ultimately. So that is going to be a big battle, and it's going to really help to show what ultimately this offensive line is going to look like in 2025. The last position I want to hit on, that's not one that we're talking about as much because it's a little bit, I don't want to say not exciting, but the tight end group going into this year is a big wild card. And why it's a wild card is we saw Cooper Flanagan obviously get knocked out of the playoffs. Nobody really knows what his timeline is. Apparent Achilles injury to some degree. So when is he going to be available for the 2025 season? Eli Raridan right now is kind of the tight end one by default. I think if Flanagan was healthy, that would be a great conversation of who is that number one tight end and then how the depth looks behind him. But Eli Raridan, while very talented, has not been overly productive yet in his career, and he's had to deal with injuries in his past as well, multiple ACL tears in his football history as well. So is he going to be a guy that you could depend as a tight end one? After that, Ty Washington is the transfer from Arkansas. How much are you going to get out of him? Is Jack Larson able to make a step forward this offseason? Is James Flanagan a younger tight end as a true freshman that can come in and play? This tight end group has some names, but I have no idea ultimately when Notre Dame plays against the Miami Hurricanes, what is that tight end depth chart going to look like? Who is healthy? How does everything shake out? That is a group that has some attention to it this offseason that I think not enough people are talking about. Folks, who's going to win these battles? Quarterback, left tackle, tight ends. What other positions offensively are you excited to look and see how they shake out this offseason? And I want to hear from you. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, all that great stuff. And we'll talk to you next time. As always, go Irish.